Good morning, all. Welcome to the 15th Annual Rockland Autism Symposium. My name is Bill Schul, and I'm the Executive Director of the Venture Foundation. The Foundation has been administering the Rockland Autism Symposium, or RAS as I call it, for 6 years now. And personally, this will be my 14th year helping to produce the event. Normally a very daunting task, and now even more so, my wife insists I had dark hair when RAS started, and whether or not that is true, no blame for my hair color can be placed at the feet of my friend John Allen Murphy. The founder of RAS, John's wife, insists that he actually had hair when this all started. John, along with our premier sponsor, Ina and Josh Needleman of MindWorks Charitable Trust, and Allison Singer of the Autism Science Foundation, are due sincere thanks for their inspiration, effort, and amiable support that keeps the symposium running strong. I'm going to pause now while I imagine all of you giving them a massive round of applause. I can't hear it, but thank you very much. I want to provide a context for the style of this year's program with this quote. Hard things are put in our way not to stop us, but to call out our courage and strength. Now, those words may apply to many parts of life, and most certainly today, as we all face the terrible cost and ongoing adaptation to our new current reality. Those words apply particularly well to those who live, love, care for, teach, and work with those with autism, especially now during the pandemic. Living with ASD is a hard thing, a tough thing even when everything is normal, ordered, and going well, but could be thrown into absolute chaos when things are abnormal, disrupted, and going poorly. This year, we decided to recognize that chaotic sense that befalls the ASD community and construct a program that will provide all of you with knowledge, insights, and useful tools to help cope with the current temporary normal caused by the pandemic. Our format this year will be appropriate for the virtual venue. 30-minute presentations on 4 distinct topics by our guest speakers, each one of them renowned in their field. We believe these topics will be helpful to parents, teachers, advisors, therapists, agency leaders, and staff, and most importantly, to those that you care and provide for. The father of applied behavior analysis, Dr. Ivar Lovaas, said, "If they can't learn the way we teach the way they learn." It's our belief that the courage and strength required now will lead us to better initiatives to teach how they learn. So sit back and enjoy our program. Our first speaker is Ms. Gina Zetchen-Thierry. Gina began her career as a special education teacher in New York City in 1993, working with children and adults with autism and severe learning and behavioral challenges. While teaching, Gina began her career in behavior analysis in 1998 under the direction and supervision of Dr. Vincent Carbone. In 2003, Gina started working alongside Dr. Carbone and served as assistant director for the Carbone Clinic. During her 16 years at the clinic, Gina worked to establish outreach and clinic-based services and consultations. In 2019, after working with Dr. Carbone for over 21 years, Gina, in partnership with Dr. Emily Sweeney-Kerwin, assumed ownership of the Carbone Clinic and renamed it All Points Licensed Behavior Analysts. Given this experience, Gina is well positioned to continue Dr. Carbone's legacy of providing high-quality behavioral analysis services to people with autism and other developmental disabilities. In 1993, Ms. Thierry received a BS in special education and later in 95 an MS in behavioral disorders from Fordham University. She received board certification in 2000 and full board certification in 2008. Ms. Thierry is a board certified behavioral analyst and is licensed to practice that in both New York and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, Gina Thierry.
Thank you. Hi, Bill. Thank you very much.
Hi, Gina. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Fabulous. You're the first one up. So as soon as you would like to get started, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, I'm gonna share my screen in a minute. I just want to introduce myself to everybody. As Bill said, you did a nice introduction. Thank you so much. This is about maybe the second or third time that I've presented for the Autism Symposium, and I can't be happier to do that. I'm sorry we're not in person, but the material is the same. As I sort of joked in our rehearsals for this, at least I won't have anybody pulling me off the stage, but I will be conscious of my time for the other presenters as well. So thank you. As Bill said, I am a behavior analyst. I have been in the field for well over 25 years, and much of my career has been spent with children with autism and what I call severe developmental disabilities. And I'm happy to present the topic today that I'm going to be talking about, which is talking about how do we strike a balance of in these days of this pandemic, something none of us, quite frankly, prepared for, and none of us really expected, but here we are. And what I want to talk about is how does this affect all of us? How does this affect us as families, as mothers, as parents, as learners, as students, because it does affect all of us differently. And what I want to talk about is my experience working with schools through this pandemic, because education must go on. We must continue to educate our learners. And then what has this taught us? We have learned, if there's anything good that has come out of this pandemic, I think we have learned a lot as educators of what we have done well and what we probably could do better in the future. So if I look at what my presentation is gonna cover, I'm gonna talk about what is the new normal. I know we're all talking about, when this is over, but I'm not convinced. I'm not sure the science is convincing us that this is going to be over. This might be the new normal, right? This might be how we live, and whether that's good or bad, whether we agree with it or disagree with it, none of that really matters. What we have to do is how are we going to accommodate to what our new normal looks like? How does it feel like? And then what have we learned? We are 6-7 months into this, and what have we learned, as a society? What have we learned as educators? We've learned a lot. I think, not having kids in school, not being able to provide services, we certainly have learned a lot. And I think it would be a travesty if we didn't change our behavior from what we learned. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm particularly going to talk about that in terms of for schools, how we need to change how we do business, basically. And then moving forward, what's that going to look like? And then what is the planning and execution of that going to look like? So when I look at what is the new normal, when I talk about that, what does that mean? Well, students are home more than attending school, right? Many of our students are on what we call a hybrid model. Some kids are going to school 4 days a week. Some are lucky enough to be going 5 days a week, but many are going 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And then if a school goes on pause, right? If a school finds a positive or 2 positives in one building, I know each school has their own sort of rubric of how they follow, but there is the possibility that everybody's going to be remote home for 2 weeks or for 3 weeks. So the new normal is that our students are going to be home more often than we have ever anticipated them to be home. And again, what does that mean? The predictability of school is gone, right? Many of our students were able to get up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and know for sure I was going to school, right? Maybe the only unpredictability came in if there was snow, but that was very easy to sort of discriminate, right? Snow outside, no school. I look outside the window, everything looks the same, but there's still no school. What does that mean? So the predictability for many of our students is now gone. What does predictability mean? Our routines are now broken, right? Many of our kids, many of our learners are used to following routines. Routines are good, right? We say that all the time as educators, build a routine, build a routine. Well, all of a sudden now these routines are broken for many reasons, of which many children don't understand. And then certainly children with developmental disabilities don't understand, why am I not going to school today? I don't see snow outside. Everything looks the same. I feel fine. And then for what is the ramification of that? Well, parents are often put in positions of being the teacher, being their students one-on-one. What is the big picture for that? Well, how do I do my job? And how do I still be my kid's teacher at the same time? And I think what the new normal is that as parents, we are seeing, right, firsthand what our children can and cannot do. Our children are home every single day with us. We are seeing what they can do. Before, we relied heavily on what the teachers told us, right? Oh, Johnny is just doing fine. He can wash his hands perfectly. Oh, he did his own snack today. Oh, he toileted himself independently. But when now kids are home, I'm seeing, right, what my kids can do. Because when I just tell Johnny to make a snack, he's not making it by himself, or he's not toileting himself independently. So from a parent's perspective, parents are now truly seeing what their kids can do versus what they can't do without with all the supports of school being gone. And the biggest question that we have learned is my child independent? So what has happened is children are home. We're supposed to simulate school happening at home. Parents are supposed to be assuming the role of the teacher or the one-to-one in many cases. And what parents and families are realizing is, wow, what I thought my child can do, he's really not able to do. So the position that we were in is, as behavior analysts, we provided a lot of help to families through this pandemic. And this is what we saw. We saw families calling us and telling us things like, wow, the teachers are expecting my child to do XYZ, but I'm seeing that my child can't really do XYZ. And then that begs the question of, well, what does independent really mean, right? When somebody says your child can do something independently, what does that mean? Well, for me and for many families, it means they can do it without the help of somebody right next to them, because the reality is they're not going to have the help of everybody right next to them all the time. So when we look back at this pandemic, what have we learned? Well, we've learned quite a bit. And some of the things that we have learned is, well, school is important, right? It is important for kids to be in school. It's important to know school is fragile and can be taken away quickly, right? We lost school in March very suddenly. All of a sudden, there was a bit of a warning. We sort of heard the rumblings. School was going to close. What was going to happen? It was gone. It's fragile. It's important. And not everything we teach in school is generalized to the home setting, and this is a problem, right? What we saw happened in March and in April was then when school was just transferred to home, it doesn't happen transferring just like that, right? What we learned is that just because kids learn stuff at school does not necessarily mean they're able to do the same thing at home, and that is a problem. And we as educators, we need to do a better job at teaching some important life skills, because kids need to be independent. Kids, while they were home, right? We're looking at our kids with autism and moderately to severely disabled individuals who were not independent at home, right? We were hearing things from parents saying like, well, they can't make their own lunch. They can't prepare their own snack. I've got to tell them every step. They're not going to the bathroom independently. After they go to the bathroom, they're not washing their hands. So I think what that tells us from an education perspective, and those of us working in the field of education, is we need to evaluate the way in which we are teaching many of our students. And I think the issue comes down to many of our kids with autism and our moderately to severely impaired individuals have a one-to-one assigned to them through their whole day. And we need to look at the role of that one-to-one, and we need to say things like, is this one-to-one that is assigned to my child teaching my child or doing for my child, right? Because at the end of the day, and if we go back and we don't know where we're going in this pandemic, and that's what makes it very difficult. We can't plan for the future because we don't quite know what the future looks like. But what we do know for many of our impaired individuals is we've got to be better at teaching these guys to be independent, because parents don't want to be teachers at home, right? We have a certain level of expectation that our kids are learning at school, and what they learn at school, they should be able to do at home simultaneously. But that was not the case, right? We had a huge disconnect in March and in April. When kids got home, so many kids had so many problems, right? Not being able, the routine was broken, and therefore we had problem behavior, not be able to engage in activities that teachers reported they were able to do. And we know that school cannot be replicated at home. Parents don't want to replicate school at home, right? We know that. We don't want to be teachers. If we wanted to be teachers, we would have been teachers. And even if we are teachers, we don't want to be teachers of our own kids, right? That is very, very common, what we hear all the time. And some of the other things that we learned is our children do not do everything that the school said they were supposed to be doing, and that is the problem. And what many parents have come to realize over this pandemic is that when we look at the guiding documents for our kids' education, we call that the IEP, right? I might not be so interested in reading and coloring and math and science and et cetera, and all of those other things. But what I'm really interested in is, well, if my child can't be out and in services and accessing services in the community, I really need to make sure that they can be as independent as possible in their own house. What does that mean? Can they make their own lunch? Can they tolerate being told no when they ask to go to their favorite restaurant, but that restaurant is closed? Or they ask to go to the bowling alley, but the bowling alley is closed? Or they want to go to school, but we can't go to school. And telling them no then evokes a whole bunch of problem behavior, where they can't tolerate being interrupted. They can't take a shower by themselves. They can't toilet themselves independently. They can't take care of themselves independently. So I think what this has taught us is that we need to reevaluate the role of our staff in our school. And we need to ensure that our staff are teaching our students to be independent. And then our staff are not just simply being there to guide our students and push our students through the day to have a good day, right? I think one of the biggest problems that we see in schools and that we try to work with a lot of districts for is the roles of one-to-ones in school should not be to just keep everything calm and make sure the kids have a good day. The roles of the one-to-one should be to teach the kids who need the most support the skills needed so that they don't need the one-to-one anymore, right? We need to teach the kids who need the most help to teach skills that can provide them the opportunity to access the community, be in the community, provide them with the support needed so that they can be independent in the community. Because what we know, and many of you that are in adult services know this all too well, is that if you cannot be independent in the community, your chances of going into the community are going to be less. And within now the shadows of a pandemic, this gets increasingly more difficult for us. So what I want to do is I want to show you a video of what I think the end product and the teaching product has got to look like for getting kids out into the community and for teaching independence. So let me get this playing. Y'all see that? Bill, can you see that? Bill, please shake your head if you see that. What you all are looking at. Bill, can you see that by any chance? Yeah, I can't hear you. Sorry. Just shake your head. Can you see it? Okay, thank you. Okay. So let me just show you what you're seeing. So what you're seeing is an adult with autism, impaired individual, in every man's nightmare. He's in Five Below. And basically what we're teaching him to do is just tolerate being in a store, because the problem is that taking this particular person and it's not him, right? This is the repertoire of many impaired individuals, is that taking them in unpreferred places typically will evoke lots of problem behavior. Why? He can't tolerate being told no. He can't tolerate being interrupted from preferred activities. And he just can't tolerate simply being in an unpreferred activity. And being in Five Below, quite frankly, is an unpreferred activity for many people. However, if you are part of a family where the rest of your family likes to go shopping, then it is perfectly reasonable to assume that we should teach people to tolerate unpreferred activities for part of their day, because that's what the rest of the family wants to do. So what you are seeing, and I'm going to let this play for a minute, is what you are seeing is the teacher, the woman in the yellow striped dress. She is teaching the individual to tolerate being in an unpreferred activity. And how is she teaching it? What you will see is you will see her give him reinforcement, some edibles along the way. You will also see her prompt him to provide his own reinforcement in the form of, he has a phone. So what she prompts him to do is start listening to his phone to some preferred music and some preferred videos that are on the video. So let me play this I'm going to stop talking. Let me play it, and y'all. What you will also notice is that she's not constantly prompting him to do things. She engaged in appropriate activities to reinforce them. Now she's going to move to the next boring type activity, which is looking through more stuff that's by the flow. And the expectation, she tells him now you need to wait here. And what she does is she particularly have data set up where she has to look at things for a specific period of time. As you can see, he's listening to a video on his phone. And what he is doing is every so often, we have an interval set, every so often when he does not engage with the public, he provides him with some reinforcement. He prompts him to stay with him, to stay with her throughout the whole shopping experience. This is what the end product, this is what I think the end product has to look like for many of our kids that are in school and certainly our adults that are out there. And he looks less than thrilled, but who is thrilled to be shopping at Five Below? Not many people. However, for his family, this is important, right? This is important for his family to be able to tolerate unpleasant activities. Now, keep in mind, this is not where we began teaching with him, right? This is the end product. So what does that mean? Well, with classrooms closed, this is what we need to think about. How can we teach so that that's what our end product looks like? So what are the questions that we need to ask ourselves? Well, have we prepared for the skills in the classroom to occur outside of our classroom, right? You will hear many parents say, what I learned during this pandemic is that what my kids were able to do in school, they were not able to do at home. Have we taught these skills so that they can occur without the assistance of a one-to-one? Again, what we have heard over these past 6 months is that no, my kids can't do this without the support of a one-to-one, but schools are not sending home one-to-ones at home during a pandemic. You're not sending their teachers home. So what we need to look at is, have we targeted the skills that are and will lead to a life of independence? I think these are the skills that we need to be better at targeting as teachers. And when we look at our roles as teachers in education, what we need to say to ourselves is, well, in the early years, we become what we say, we become specialists in the field, right? I have my teacher, I have my speech and language pathologist, I have my occupational therapist, I have my PT, all that stuff. We're specialists in our different area. As the kids progress through school, and we get on later in years in school, middle school, high school, our last couple of years of high school, 19, 20, 21, I think what we ought to start looking at is our teachers and our specialists, and are not as specialists, but as generalists, right? We need to know a lot about a lot of information. In the early years of education, things like government services, mental health resources, medication, sexuality, that wasn't so important in kindergarten and first grade. As we progress through the years, all these issues right here on the right-hand side of the screen become important. Not only are you a special educator, not only you are a speech and language pathologist, but you need to know a lot about, well, what kind of services are available for these students after they graduate from high school? What kind of services are available now simultaneously while they are in school and at home, right? We need to look at job coaching. We need to understand the issues of medication and sexuality. What resources are available? Are there other community-based supports? So I think what we look at is in our teachers, and the role of education changes over the years. And if it doesn't change, we ought to, as parents, we ought to start saying things like, well, I don't want my kids operating out of operating in silos anymore. I need everybody to be operating together so that we have a cohesive plan for my student. So what did we learn? We learned that we have to focus on critical skills, right? When I talk about critical skills, what is a critical skill? Well, a critical skill is a behavioral, academic, or social, or any other skill that a student's IEP determines is critical to allowing the students to function independently, okay? This is important. We need, as parents, as educators, to make sure that we have critical skills on our students' IEP. We need to teach students to function independently without the support of a one-to-one teacher. And again, when we talk about these critical skills, what am I talking about? Well, I want to show you what an example of a critical skill of just toileting looks like throughout the entire career of school. Many people would say things like, well, toileting is only a goal on the IEP that I would put on early in the IEP. And I beg to differ. I think toileting is a skill that needs to stay on the IEP for a child's entire career until we can be assured that they can toilet with 100% independence. In the early years, what do IEP goals related to toileting look like? Well, are you initiating? Are you using the toilet? For boys, are you using the urinal? Boys, are you pulling your pants? And girls, certainly up and down. Can you zipper? Can you button? Can you wipe? For a urine for girls and a bowel movement for both? Do you flush? Do you wash your hands? Do you stay dry? Do you close the door when you go into the bathroom? These are important toileting skills that we need to teach. In the middle years of school, toileting skills should not be gone away. We should not say things like, well, I'm not going to work on toileting anymore. We need to continue to work on this critical skill to ensure that by the time they leave school, they are toileting independent. Because the last thing we want is when children to leave school to be dependent on another person to be completing critical skills. Toileting is one of those skills. For example, in the middle school years, are we preparing girls for their menstruation? Are we teaching them how to take care of it themselves? Do we teach them how to lock the doors when they go into the bathroom, or do they go into the bathroom and leave the doors wide open? Are we fading our supervision out? Or are we inadvertently teaching kids to rely on all the staff support that we provide for them? For example, I have gone into many schools and many classrooms where girls do start their periods, and when they go into the bathroom, they go in with a staff member who carries the pad for them. Now, that's not being independent, because people don't do that in real life, right? Again, the critical skill is, how do we teach girls to always be prepared themselves? And then certainly later on in their school career, what does toileting look like? Well, do you choose the appropriate bathroom? Do you keep track of your own cycles of when that's going to happen? And is supervision fully faded? So again, what we've learned in this pandemic is that many students have had school fail them in teaching many of these critical skills. And I think we need to look back at these critical skills and say, well, maybe these critical skills need to happen throughout school, but they need to look differently as we focus on them through school. And that is an example of a critical skill. What are some other examples? Dressing, bathing, eating, self-care, household participation, ADL skills. There are many of what we call adaptive living skills: cooking, preparing your foods, group learning, another one, self-management. Can you self-manage your own behavior, problem solving, safety skills? These are critical skills that should occur throughout the entire school year career. However, the focus looks different. So I'm not saying the same goal stays on the IEP for the whole, for all of your time in school, but the goal needs to be there. How we implement it needs to change over life. So what does planning for that look like? Well, I think we need to write better IEPs for sure, right? What is your criteria? Well, Johnny will use the bathroom 80% of the time with assistance. Well, what does he do the other 20% of the time? It's not okay, right? It's not okay that you don't use the bathroom 20% of the time. And it's never okay that you're still using the bathroom with assistance, right? We need to get to the point of without assistance. Now, clearly, for some children, certainly children who have physical disabilities, we may always need assistance. But I think for the many of the children that we are working with, we can get them to use the bathroom, perform many of these critical skills without the use of a one-to-one or assistance. And what does that look like then? Well, what is the plan to fade the one-to-one in schools? So, I'm sure many people are not from the state of New York. I hear there's over 400 people here in this workshop, which is great. But for the people, particularly in New York, what I can tell you is that New York State education system has a planning document that if you assign a one-to-one with a student, you should also be submitting a plan simultaneously of, well, what's the plan to get rid of the one-to-one, right? And again, there's two ways to look at this. Oh, we're just trying to get rid of the one-to-one to save money. I think the better way to look at it is we're trying to get rid of the one-to-one because without the one-to-one, then that would mean the student would be independent. So I think the goal should be, yes, if students need a one-to-one to learn how to perform some of these critical skills, we ought to provide a one-to-one. Simultaneously, we ought to be providing a plan to ensure that that one-to-one is teaching the student to learn these critical skills so they can become independent, and therefore we can fade the one-to-one out. But what I can tell you I often see in school is that one-to-ones are provided to make sure that everybody has a good day and that the kids are just getting through the day, which is not the goal of a one-to-one. And if we have learned anything in this pandemic, and families will attest to this, is that yes, we want our students to have one-to-one, but we also want our students to be independent. And we have learned with them being at home for so long that many of them are not independent. And what goals should be targeted for instruction? Well, say to yourself at your next IEP meeting, are we tackling the problem behavior, or are we just keeping students happy and avoiding the problem behavior? If we're keeping kids happy all day and just avoiding the problem behavior, I think we ought to take another look at how can we actively plan for tackling some of these issues that evoke the problem behavior. So what does the execution look like? I know I'm running out of time, and I'm going to wrap it up. So as we look to execute a better plan for teaching students to be more independent, I think what we can do is look to the field of applied behavior analysis, right? We are the people that study human behavior, right? We are the people that have procedures and tactics and research and years of evidence to show we can change human behavior. I'm not suggesting it's easy. I'm not suggesting it happens overnight, but I am suggesting that we have the science to do this. We ought to do this because we know now that we have been in this pandemic, we know how important teaching independence is. We know it is more important for a child, a student, a young adult, an adult to be able to take care of themselves independently, because we know that services can be taken away in an instant, and then you're left with nothing. And we are interested in changing behavior in socially significant ways. For me, there's nothing more socially significant than saying things like, yes, this child can toilet themselves independently. Yes, this person can dress themselves. Yes, they can tie their shoes. Yes, they can exchange money in a store. That is socially significant. And we study the science in ways that make changing behavior predictable and teachable. Again, we have years and years of research behind this of how to do it and how to do it in ways that we can teach others to do this. And because of this, I know that we can do better as educators. We can plan better as schools. We can plan better for outcomes for many of our students, better than what is currently happening in the field. So as I talk to parents who are in the audience right now, and as I talk to schools in the audience right now, what I would encourage everybody to do is take a look at how are we planning for the life of these students after they leave our school. We would be short-sighted if we only plan for our students while we have them in front of us. The better plan is to plan for them when they are not going to be with us anymore. And if we think like that, it's a mindset change. If we think that as schools, our job is to teach kids to be independent after they leave us, then that will change the whole way in which we are teaching kids currently today. And so what I would like to present to everybody is that we use and we look to the science of applied behavior analysis. We strive to get our kids to be more independent, focus on the critical skills that will be necessary to lead an independent life, rather than a life that is constantly being, that constantly has to be prompted and with the help of another person. Because what we know is during this pandemic, that didn't happen, and many of our kids were at home and put in very uncomfortable situations where the parents had to step in because kids could not perform some basic tasks. So with that said, I did not have enough time. I have some time for questions. I would love to talk more on this topic. It's what I do every day in schools, and it is my mission to teach every school to teach kids to be as independent as possible. So, Bill, that is the end.
Unshare your screen.
Okay. Yep.
There we go.
Oh,
So there we go.
okay.
So thank you, Gina. No, there was no red flags. You could have kept
Oh,
going.
okay.
I was knowing you'd be longer. I was shorter, so we're good.
Okay, perfect.
Um, we do have several questions. I think they're pretty good. So the first one is, do you have any specific tips on how a person with ASD can get tested for COVID when they're resistant or refusing for the nasal swab?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, this is all about tolerance, right? And being told no. So what I would suggest, many families, and this is important to many families who can't even get kids to the doctor for maybe even some regular doctor visits. What I would suggest to all families right now, if you know that your child or your student is has aversions to going to the doctor, doesn't like his blood pressure taken, doesn't like shots, start practicing now, even when you are not sick. What does that mean? That means you practice what it's like to get a nasal swab. I'm sure many of us have had it, right? I've had it many, many times. I know what it is. Practice just getting close to your learner with perhaps a Q-tip and counting to 10, maybe with the Q-tip, right in front of them. And what we need to do, and it's called systematic desensitization, right? That's the technical term in the field of applied behavior analysis. But what we need to do for many of our students, that if you know that this will be a tough time for them, we need to systematically expose them to what the test will be like, so that when the real test comes, hopefully it never will, but if you ever have to go for the real test, we have exposed them gradually to what it might feel like. And I encourage, and we've done this for many students so far, is we just simply practice what it's like. And again, step one, I'm just holding a Q-tip, maybe, 3 feet from your nose, and we gradually get closer and closer and closer.
Perfect. There are two questions that kind of blend together here. The comment was made that every single point you brought up is critical, and how do they coordinate between schools and home to teach this? And the second question was, how does an agency like All Points support school districts, specifically teachers and parents, during remote learning? So there's a double-headed question there.
Okay, so the first question is, how do we, how have we supported schools and families through this pandemic? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So at All Points, what we have been able to do is we have contracted with different districts, where districts have called us and have said, quite frankly, oh my gosh, kids are now home, parents are struggling with behaviors, and we have helped families basically go help them to, parents have just said to us, okay, what do I do when he does this? What do I do when I tell him it's time to put the iPad down and hop on a Google Classroom, and he won't do it? And again, so what we have been able to do with many families is work virtually like this, albeit not the best situation, but we make do. Or, we have gone into some families' homes under extreme precautions, and we have walked families how to systematically get kids to do things. And again, the answer is never going to be, I can get somebody to do it overnight. Trust me, if I can get kids to do things overnight, I wouldn't be doing this presentation. I'd be in a millionaire on an island somewhere, not worried about COVID. But that's not going to happen. But what I can help you do is systematically, day by day, take baby steps to get to the goal that you want to get to, which is perhaps getting your kids to sit in front of a Google Classroom, or perhaps tolerate when you tell him we can't go out to that restaurant because it's closed, or, nobody understands. I've told many times to a 16-year-old with developmental disabilities, Governor Cuomo won't let you go. Like, that's not an answer that's going to help, right? That, sometimes it doesn't help me. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go bowling? It doesn't help us as typical adults. It certainly doesn't help many of our children with developmental disabilities. So we have to use other tactics. So we have gone, short answer, we have helped families over the phone, virtually, and certainly in person, to help them understand how the science of applied behavior analysis can help you.
Okay. We got two questions that go on the same topic here, and it has to do with what advice can you give to deal with severe meltdowns?
Yeah. So again, first, the first analysis of that is always going to be, well, why is the meltdown happening, right? We know in the science of applied behavior analysis, it is never random. It is usually triggered by either they're being interrupted from something preferred, or they are told no to something they want. So the first step is first understand why is the meltdown happening. And second step is, okay, let's put in a coordinated plan to avoid the meltdown happening in the future. And again, that's going to be an individualized type of an answer. I can't tell you what to do because it is all predicated on, well, why is the meltdown happening? But parents, if you are having meltdowns out there, step number one, figure out what is triggering that meltdown. And there will always be a trigger. And I can tell you for 95, 97% of those meltdowns, it's either going to be because you have just told your child no, or you are asking them to leave something preferred and go to something unpreferred. The good news in all of this, again, is that it can get better and it will get better with systematic application of behavioral principles.
Terrific. We're running close to our time. So there's two more. I'm not going to take any more after this, but I will tell the audience, anyone that wants to ask a question on this or any of our speakers today, we will record all of the questions and we will forward them to the person you're asking them of. We'll also be posting on the website this entire video in a week or so, and we'll also put up there the way to contact each of our speakers for any questions you want to ask or conversations you want to have offline. So just be comforted with that. The last two, one, and these kind of blend together with some of the others, I suppose, but students with autism are very, very used to, many of them, a structure, a schedule that they can count on and believe in. Given the uncertainty of some of the schools and some of the teaching mechanisms, a child expecting to go to the next school the next day, and then it's unexpectedly closed because of COVID, right, testing or such. What do you do with that?
Yeah, so I think what we need to do is understand that these following a routine is good. However, if you can't tolerate an interruption of the routine, then that's where we need to start teaching right there. Because what happens is we're going to school, and then all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, can't go to school today. Now the routine is broken and now I have problem behavior. So what I suggest for many families is before you actually get to that break in that structure, start purposely putting breaks into the routine and teaching kids to tolerate breaks in routines. Because if you never teach somebody to tolerate your routine being broken, then when your routine is broken, you have all this, meltdowns or whatever people want to call it. So what we need to start focusing on, and this is a critical skill that I was talking about, schools ought to be focusing on teaching kids how to tolerate interruption, because the world we live in is kooky right now. We're having interruptions galore. So teach tolerance to an interruption. And again, how do you do that? You take baby steps. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen. You will get to the end goal, trust me.
Terrific. Gina, we have several more questions that have been coming in, but as I said, we're behind our clock already. So we're going to record them and forward them to you, and you can ask them in person. I want to thank you totally for a great presentation, for being here, and for your willingness to follow up with the people who in our audience that want to talk later. So Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So our next speaker provides a very different idea about this topic. Patty Colombo. She developed the RISE program for Volunteer New York, and RISE, which stands for Readiness Through Integrated Service Engagement, supports adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, helping them to build skills through volunteering. She has an MS in Human Development and Counseling, a BA in Therapeutic Recreation, and a Certified Therapeutic Recreation Specialist. Patty's got 30 years of experience in program development, assessments, evaluation, staff training, and volunteer management. She develops and manages innovative programs and establishes collaborative relationships that build stronger community connections for the participants that she serves. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, I have to find her first. Please welcome Patty Colombo.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Thank Thank you for
So
that great introduction.
you're quite welcome. Patty, some of the people have commented on the volume. So if I could ask you just to perk up your voice a little bit. I think that Gina's is a little bit low as well. We don't control that, everyone. So we'll do the best we can. But Patty, the stage is all yours.
Right. Thank you. It is great to be here with everyone this morning. I am going to be talking about the impact of virtual volunteering on the employment path for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism. I work at Volunteer New York. We are a nonprofit organization that helps to connect anyone of any age and stage of life in volunteering. We focus on Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam County and work with over 500 nonprofit in our area. So Gina was just talking about working with kids in the school districts. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about as people transition into the adult services. But in general, for Volunteer New York, we are helping anyone of all ages volunteer in all abilities. RISE, as Bill shared, stands for Readiness Through Integrated Service Engagement. It is a program that connects adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities to local nonprofits so they can build skills while volunteering. We advocate for community inclusion through volunteerism, offer workshops and trainings, support community engagement goals, help build community connections, and make those connections to volunteer assignments and projects. Of course, we have always done this community-based, but because of the current climate and health crisis that we are in, we have pivoted all of our services to virtual volunteering. So we will be talking about that as well. One of the workshops I offer is called Volunteering 101, which is to educate adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities about how to get involved in volunteering. So individuals who participate, and when I set up these workshops, I encourage individuals to come with family members, caregivers, whoever, job coaches that may be working with them so that they can gain the same information along with them. What they will gain as they participate in this workshop is a better understanding of what it means to volunteer, which is helping others and offering service to support nonprofit organizations in our community. The common barrier I hear is people say, I don't want to volunteer because I won't get paid. There's a great disservice that is happening when people are calling unpaid work experiences volunteering. And this can cause a negative attitude towards volunteerism. So it's important to refer to unpaid work experiences as part of their job training and leave the term volunteering as when they are out and helping others in the nonprofits in our communities. Through this workshop, they'll also learn how volunteering builds their community and their job readiness skills, and also learns how to use Volunteer New York resources to help them find opportunities that match their interest. How does volunteering fit into person-centered planning? This is a survey that was done by the National Core Indicators that shows that 18% of adults with IDD have jobs in the community, and there's another 31% who have community employment as a goal for their service plan. Now, we do know now with the current climate of unemployment that individuals are starting to be laid off or on furlough, but when we get back to normal, hopefully we'll get back into these strong statistics again. Another question on the survey is, do you take classes, training, or do something to help you get a job or to get a better job? Only 21% say yes. I guess I'm a little surprised by that number. It just shows that there's a lot more that people can be doing to continue to learn skills. And if only 18% of individuals are working, that leaves 82% of people that are not working. So what are people doing to continue to build on their skills? Where do you build skills employers are looking for? OPWDD has put out this list of basic skills that employers are looking for entry-level candidates. Communication skills, positive attitude, adapting to change. We are practicing that a lot these days. Teamwork, being goal-oriented, and as many of you know, these are considered soft skills, which are very important in the work environment. So if people are not working or if they're being laid off or furloughed, how are they continuing to work on these skills and maintain these skills until they can get back into their jobs again? Another question on the survey asking adults with IDD, do you do any volunteer work? And the great news is that 32% of individuals that responded to this survey were indicating that they were volunteering. I know with the volunteers that I work with, they are reporting on an average, they volunteer 2 to 5 times a week, 1 to 2 hours a day. This may be in one day opportunities, short-term projects, or ongoing assignments that they're a part of. Again, I know that during this COVID lockdown that many of you that are out volunteering, that your volunteer opportunities have been put on hold, and you're missing those opportunities and those connections with your community greatly. I have shifted moving people over to as many virtual opportunities as I can find for them. Job skills that you can build while volunteering, and this includes virtual and remote volunteering opportunities as well. Polite communications and professional behavior. I work with individuals through Zoom and just continuing to help them maintain their skills. And many of us have learned Zoom skills for the very first time. How do we reappear on screen when we're on screen with people? What are we wearing? Are we sitting up nice and tall? Can people see our face? These are all things that you can work on virtually with your participants as well. Keeping a positive attitude, especially during the pandemic. People are getting tired and it's hard for them to keep their positive up. Staying goal oriented. Gina was talking a little bit about the importance of keeping routine. I am working with groups that I am just one of their Zoom calls during the day. They are starting their virtual Zoom programs as adults with their Without Walls programs at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they may not end until 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. So it's fantastic, and congratulations to all those organizations that are keeping their individuals engaged virtually through whatever virtual format they may be using. Some are using Zoom, some are using Google. The other important skill is following directions and doing the task accurately. When I have projects that individuals are working on, if it's not done correctly, I will send it back to them to make sure that it's done correctly. And then when I do a site visit and follow up with them, I see that they have put in a new system to ensure that that task is being done correctly. So it's a learning experience for everyone. Of course, it's important for people to learn to stay self-motivated, to be independent, to stay resilient and to stick with something even though it may be tough, to have time and project management skills, to work as a team, and to be flexible. Volunteering is a great way to build skills. As Bill shared, my professional background is as a recreation therapist, and I've been in the field for 30 years. So my whole life, I have helped people balance their life and be engaged in meaningful activities in their community. And certainly volunteerism is part of that. So whether you have individuals that have work goals or not, volunteering is an important goal for everyone. And I hope some of these aspects fit to no matter who you are or who you're working with. We know that volunteering helps to build people's resumes. For everyone who's watching today, I would encourage you to look at your own resumes. Do you have your volunteer activities listed on your resume? It can help learn and practice community and job skills. As I mentioned before, it helps to maintain skills if individuals have been laid off and furloughed, especially over the last few months. I'm hearing reports from organizations that individuals are losing their skills. And volunteering helps to expand your network and meet new people. And this can be done virtually. This can be done on Zoom. So continue to engage other people in the community with your virtual programming. Help your individuals learn how to build relationships with these individuals they are meeting when they're out and about in the community. They could become potential references for them as they are doing their job search. Volunteering is a great way to explore career options in work environments. You may think you want to work with animals and love animals, but you start working volunteering at an animal shelter, maybe you find out that you're actually allergic to animals. So you have to understand, is this an environment that you can actually work in? So you can test that all out through volunteer opportunities. And certainly volunteering, we know, gives everyone a huge boost in their self-esteem. It just feels good to volunteer. And then I could go on and on. So these are a few highlights of how volunteering is a great way to build skills and helping people gain those skills while volunteering to gain employment skills. So where can you find volunteer opportunities? At Volunteer New York, we have a website and we have a search engine, which is volunteernewyork.org, where you can search for both in-person, virtual, and remote opportunities. Virtual opportunities are when you're doing things online on Zoom. Remote activities are when you're doing things at home, like making cards or maybe doing a mailing, stuffing envelopes. Maybe you could do something like that at home for a company that's looking for help. Volunteer New York is part of the Points of Light organization, and there are almost 200 affiliates across the country and globally. So I know people are listening in from all over today. So if you're outside of our area, Westchester, Rockland, or Putnam, you can go to the Points of Light website and find their volunteer site, and it will connect you to in-person volunteering in your own neighborhood. They also have a great list of virtual opportunities as well. So it's another great resource to tap into. Once you go to our website, volunteernewyork.org, and bring up our searching for opportunities, this is what our page will look like. There's several ways to search for opportunities. You can put in a keyword if you like working with animals or working in community gardens or food pantries. You can put that in, and any opportunities that's related to that will it'll generate a list for you. Or you can also put in your zip code, and those opportunities that are closest to you will come up first. Or if you click on virtual, any virtual opportunities will come up. It can take some time to explore these search advanced searches. So it's a great way for you to even assign and work with your individuals to do this independently. Teach them how to use the website. You can, if you're doing virtual programming, you can bring this up on a screen share, and you can work with people individually on searching for opportunities. As lists are generated, several things might pop up. So you're going to just look through and see what really is the best fit for you. There's all kinds of opportunities. There can be over 500 opportunities on our website in any given day. Some of these might be, you put in animals, and some of them might be actually something that you can do in person, dog walking the animals, but one of it might be that they need a board member to be on the board of that organization. So there's all levels of skills that these organizations are looking for. And know that this will change daily. It is our nonprofit partners that are posting these opportunities on our website. We work with close to 500 nonprofit organizations. So on any given day, they may be posting something on our website. Once you find something, you click it on, You click the interest button and it will connect you directly to that nonprofit organization. We are just the connector. Once you click on, it is then up to them to connect with you and to get you started in that volunteer opportunity. If anyone ever has any questions about that, you can certainly reach out to me and I can help you with some of those connections. These are a couple of examples of opportunities, remote opportunities that are on our website right now today that you can do from home, in your classrooms, or on site at day programs. Writing letters to cards and seniors that may be feeling isolated. We know that in nursing homes, they are still restricted from having visitors. You can also write thank you notes and cards to veterans and deployed soldiers. These are great academic skills. When you are doing homeschooling at home and someone is not interested in doing the writing, perhaps you can say, let's write a card, even if it's to their own grandparents. I think that's a lost art of writing and sending letters. So have them write a letter to a grandparent, or if you live in a neighborhood that has a nursing home, make some cards and get it over to them. I know that there are people who love to crochet and knit. We also have an organization in our that we're working with that would love to have baby blankets. What I really emphasize with my group is the importance to stay connected with the community, even if you cannot be in the community. I work a lot with Without Walls programs that spend their entire day out in the community, and it's been very challenging and difficult for them to have to stay home. So as much as I can, and through Zoom meetings that I'm having with them, I'm helping them stay connected with the community by doing projects with the community. It's important to share your impact as well. This is an example of some of the impact sheets that we have created that shares what the RISE volunteers are contributing to in the community. I make my volunteers count. They count those cards. If they're making cards for seniors or for United for the Troops that are going to go into a care package over to deployed soldiers overseas, I ask them to count how many they have made. If you have individuals that are out delivering Meals on Wheels, keep track of how many meals your individuals are actually delivering during those routes. I know some of these opportunities are on hold, but whatever you're doing, track them and then share them out to your stakeholders. It's a great way to promote and share what your individuals and what you are doing as you contribute in. There may actually be a way for you to put that on your resume as well. A lot of people will ask about computer skills. So I just emphasize the importance of keeping data. So this is why not have your individuals learn to track and enter your data in Excel sheets or forms. I've created a Google form that I ask volunteers to go in and fill out. And a lot of times it's the staff that's doing it. And there's no reason why a participant couldn't fill out this form. And you design your own spreadsheets within your own program and have the volunteers, have your participants learn these skills as well. Volunteering, we know, is a win-win-win for everybody in our community. I've talked a little bit about the nonprofits in our communities. They depend on volunteers of all ages and stages and abilities to help them in their important work in our communities. Once they discover the talents and the strengths of individuals with disabilities can provide as a volunteer, along with all their volunteers that they use, they learn to value those contributions and they will become your greatest advocates for community inclusion. I've worked with a lot of wonderful nonprofits who have never worked with groups of disabilities before. And they often tell me, like, why did I not know about this resource earlier? So sometimes it just takes a little hand holding. And as Gina said earlier, sometimes it just takes little steps to get a foot into the door someplace. But once we provide a positive experience, then they're grateful for the volunteers that um, they are using. We've already talked about the impact on volunteers, and certainly the impact on the community is that you are preventing isolation for seniors, you're caring for animals, you're feeding those with food insecurities, you're showing gratitude for veterans and soldiers that are serving our country. And I have groups out there that are managing donations for nonprofits. They're picking up diapers and coats and books and toys for drives, and coming up over the holidays we see a lot of those drives. So if you do have groups that are still out there and can do some pickups, this is a great place to contact those organizations and offer your service to pick them up and to get them over to their organizations. At Volunteer New York, we believe everyone can serve. I'd like to do a quick shout out to Camp Venture Tanglewood Group Home. I don't know if there's anybody listening today that knows this group. They participated in a program over the summer that was called Camp Volo. Volo stands for Volunteer Locally. And I sent this packet over to Krista, who you're going to be hearing from shortly. And she took this and pushed it out and got some of her group homes to participate in this project. The project was that over the summer to pick 10 activities in which you can help the community, and there's all kinds of suggestions in this packet that they received. So the Tanglewood House, this was one of the activities that they picked, was to do a food donation, and they picked People to People. That is an organization in Rockland, and here you see them delivering that. And even during a pandemic, people are out there volunteering, and of course you see they have their mask on. So congratulations to the Tanglewood House. You will each be receiving a certificate, and it's on your way. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation for today. I know it was very quick, and we have a little bit of time for questions. I just want to thank the Rockland Autism Symposium for inviting me here to speak with you today, and you can certainly reach out to me after to with any other questions that you might have for me. Thank you, Bill.
You're quite welcome, Patty. So there are some questions, and some of them fall into similar categories. So I'm going to break it down to, I think, just two. The first one, and some of these are coming in through text or through cell phone, so that's why I'm reading from my phone. There's a question about lethargy with some of the adults, and finding a way for less able, nonverbal children to be involved with volunteering. How do you excite them through this? And I know you touched on some of the points there, but these obviously have not worked for the people who are asking these questions. What do you think?
Yes, I find when people are talking to me about that, it's because often in day programs, adults are doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out. We talked a little bit about a routine, but within that routine with all of us, we get tired and bored of what we're doing. So often just by switching up activities, or for individuals understanding that what they're doing is helping other people in itself will put a spark into their life. So if they're coloring, have them color something that's going to go onto a card. If they can color in that flower, then cut it out and glue it onto a card, and then it's going to be sent to somebody. But really help them understand who is receiving it. I find sometimes we often just say, this is what we're doing, and people don't understand why they're doing it. And when I take the time to explain to people why they are doing the project, who is being helped, do a little empathy. How would you feel? An example is we make sock bundles for people that are homeless, and we take a warm sock and we put it in a bag, and maybe there's a chopstick in it. So we talk about why do individuals experiencing homelessness need warm socks. So if you go outside in the winter, what do you have on your feet? They all say boots. I said, well, people that are homeless often cannot afford boots. So they're walking around in the snow, their feet are getting wet, and they need warm socks. So you are providing them with warm socks. So that would be my recommendation, is to not underestimate anybody's ability to understand that volunteering is making a difference in other people's lives.
Specifically with nonverbal adults. you're suggesting that
Yeah,
is
that's a
thing.
great. So, you know, the person participating in making sock bundles for a shelter, that can be done by any level of individual. And it can be done as a job skill, you know, because you have to be accurate. I did that and somehow one sock got into the sock bundle. How accurate is that? One person needs two socks, not one sock.
And the last question that we have up here today is, and then maybe you addressed this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. It is the question about staff inclusion of the ability for someone to volunteer on their own or almost on their own. And so, how does the staff work gets worked into this?
Yes. So if you're going onto our website, there is a button where you can sign up as a group. So if you are volunteering with someone, you should look for those group opportunities. There's as you click on the opportunities, it also there's a place that you can reach out to the individual who has posted that, and you can also talk to them as well about if it's okay that you come as a group, or if you're a job coach on a one-to-one. And if not, then you're working toward those independent skills. So on our website, there's volunteer opportunities for everyone of all abilities. But often you have to just do a lot of communications ahead of time. And with the individuals, with the groups that I work with, the staff are a big part of supporting the individuals and our role models and reinforcing what the group is doing while they're on site and are very actively involved. But every volunteer opportunity is different, so you just have to have good communications with who you're working with.
Terrific. Patty, thank you so very much for your presentation today. I think there are people who have learned a lot. It wouldn't be the first thing I think people think of is using the people from the IDD community to be volunteers, but there's a ton of good there. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So our as we move forward, our third presenter today is speaker is Krista Bilodeau. So I know Krista personally because I got involved in an event called Buddy Ball Sports, and Krista, I met her when she was just a young lass, starting out with Camp Venture. But she's got an MS in education, and she's been in the recreational field for all of 20 years. She's the director of Camp Venture's Creative Arts and Recreation Department. Through painting, music, ceramics, theater, sports, swimming, and the incorporation lately of technology, they strive to assist the participants with self-exploration and expression and enhancement of the quality of their life by offering a wide variety of the same things that everyone wants: hobbies and leisure activities. The Creative Arts Department in Camp Venture brings the community of venture artists and musicians and actors to the full Rockland County community through public art gallery showings, special presentations, and annual music productions. Camp Venture also offers additional enhancement activities in this newer, not brand new, but somewhat new, state-of-the-art technology center, a multi-sensory therapy room, fabulous place, and an outdoor musical garden. There's a brand new, the performance hall that Krista uses to put on her shows is newly renovated, and Krista puts it to great use. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Krista Bilodeau. Sorry. Hi, Krista.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I gave a little bit of your background. You can touch on it more, but I think that maybe a bit about the just because they'd like to know Rockademy or items like that. But have a great presentation, and thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. As Bill said, I'm the director of the Creative Arts and Recreation Department for Camp Venture. Obviously, at this time, things have changed so drastically that we've had to reinvent ourselves, and that's kind of what I'm going to be speaking with you about today. A lot of our programs, like the Tech Center and the theater program and the arts and ceramics and Rockademy, which is our band that we have, a lot of those programs have been on hold due to the global pandemic, and our folks are home, and they're not used to being home. and they usually have a schedule and programs and things that they get to do leisurely for their own enjoyment. So we're going to talk a little bit today, and I'm hoping that you will get some great resources and that I can give you some more information on things that you could do at home with your students, with your family members, to help them while we're in our at-home mode. So in light of the pandemic, our Creative Arts and Recreation Department has branched off and created a new innovative program to serve the people that we have in our residences at home, as well as some of our residents who are currently staying home with their family members rather than in the group homes. That program is called CARE at Home for Creative Arts and Recreation Enrichment. And these are just some of the questions and concerns that came in, which prompted the creation of our program. So the feedback I received when we started adapting to this at-home model was questions like, we don't have enough activities, supplies. We don't know where to get the activity supplies. We don't have the creativity to make up projects. We don't have the time to make up projects or to sit with everybody and assist. There's so many other things that are happening during anyone's given day. And we don't know where to go to find our virtual content. And importantly, we don't know how to access some of that virtual content once we do find it. So I'm hoping that in our next 20 or 30 minutes together, I could answer these for you. Our Care at Home was born out of these questions. And so first we developed two things: a bi-weekly care package program specifically for our residences. And that goes home every 2 weeks, a themed package that's filled with prepped crafts, games, activities. The idea was to take the guessing out of it for the staff and for the individuals who like to do these kinds of activities. So everything is bagged together, individually for each person, so that it's an easy activity and they can enjoy it without needing a whole lot of assistance. And second, we started a YouTube channel. Now, this was new for me. If I could start a YouTube channel, I think anybody could start a YouTube channel where we go here and we do all those crafts that we send home. We do how-to videos. So if you don't have the time, you can take those supplies and set your individuals up with their YouTube on their tablets or their screens, and they could do it along with us. This was kind of a twofold idea. One, it was important to us that we give the staff in our homes and the parents and the family members the information on how to do these crafts, because though it sounds kind of silly, not everybody is creative. Not everybody can open the package and know exactly what to do. So these are all how-to videos. But along with that, we've really tried to put a variety of content up on our YouTube page. There's sing-alongs, there's easy cooking or no-bake cooking videos there. There's short 1-minute mindfulness meditation videos. There's games, bingo calling. If you want, you could listen to me just calling the bingo numbers if you could play along at home. But the other side of this was that, especially in the early days of the pandemic, it was important. My thoughts were it was important for our folks that are used to being out every day to see and hear some familiar voices. And for us, this was a nice way to bring the music specialist back into their life, to bring the art teacher back into their life. They could hear my voice or they could hear their voices and say, oh, that's great. I've missed them so much. And they can get a little piece of us at home. So I would like to share with you, this is our YouTube channel. I am going to share my screen. This is our YouTube channel, and this is open for anybody. So anybody can go and use this. Just because we send the bi-weekly packages home doesn't mean that you need to have those to participate. A lot of them are paper plates and stickers. You know, I try to make it easy so anyone can participate. Some are more complicated than others, but you'll see here we have read alouds. We've had content up here since March. So there's meditation, mindfulness by the campfire, no bake s'mores pudding pie. There are so many different videos here that we've made just for our folks, and for anyone in the community that it might be helpful to. Sing-alongs, name that songs. So you are welcome to search up Venture Care at Home on YouTube and use our content if it's useful to you. So to take this step by step, those first couple of concerns that we had when we started our at-home model is we don't have, you know, so all the guys are used to being out. So at home, we don't necessarily have the activities, the supplies, the creativity, or the time. So what can we do? So just to share with you, here are some companies that I order from that have great like prepackaged craft supplies. Anybody could order from these. These are more bulk orders, but there are definitely a resource. Amazon.com. Of course, you could just search craft supply kits and you can get actually a whole prepackaged craft kit that comes along with markers and crayons and paper and some general stuff. I use Pinterest for inspiration for everything we do. It's a great site. And something new that I've been doing at home, even with my own children and at work, is using like sell by barter sites like OfferUp or even the Facebook garage sale pages to try to find items so I don't have to keep spending money on the items. In addition to this, I try to stay up on the events that are coming up to get more information so I can build my plethora of resources that I push out to our houses and our individuals. For example, coming up is the Abilities Expo. I've put it here, and when you have my slides, you'll be able to access the website. And this free virtual expo gives you a range of information and resources and hot topics for a variety of disabilities. Here's some sites I really am excited about sharing. So I'm sure that many of you have heard of these monthly subscription packages, kind of like our bi-weekly care at home packages, but these are for anybody to order. You can access them through Amazon. You can go directly to their website. I'm just going to kind of bring one or two up for you today to just show you. For example, kiwi.com. These are monthly subscriptions, but most or mainly all of them, you could also buy just a 1 month plan for and just get a box. It has some great stuff in it. Or you could do it every month, or you could switch it up and try different ones. We'll go to kiwi.com. And what I want to show you is a lot of the times we think of this as being just for school-age children and your typical child. But what I love about these companies is that, especially now, everyone has branched out to include more people. So you can, if you scroll down to the bottom of their page, so this is where you have to get a little creative with making sure you look around on these websites. You can shop by age. So for example, you can buy, you could shop packages of supplies and monthly subscriptions for someone's developmental age rather than their chronological age. But they do have things, for example, age 14 to 104. This, if you go here, is going to be much more for individuals who really are into crafting and don't have that opportunity at home that they had during their day programs. They can get these subscriptions where they could do crocheting and a variety of activities. But they also have stuff for our little ones, or Explore and Play, which has a lot of tactile and sensory items, play and learn. So really they have a good variety of all different things that you'd be looking for, science, all different topics. So that's just one of the many companies that offer this kind of monthly craft subscription, similar to what we've started to do. There's Kids Stir. I'm not going to go to all of them, but Kids Stir is a cooking one, which gives you different cooking supplies. Doesn't give you the food itself, but it gives you any of the tools that you might need to create things and different recipes. And again, that's not age specific. That's fun for everybody. They have some really great Halloween themed packages right now. And they're all, you know, between $16 and $35 a month. So it's really up to you and what fits in your lifestyle and how you can work with the individuals you have at home or at school. So the next concern was we don't know where to go to find virtual content. And this was kind of a big thing for everybody. Good news is everybody's going through this. So virtual content has kind of exploded. So I'm going to share with you some of the sites that I have used. Some of them are specific to New York, but for example, Special Olympics New York. Special Olympics is an international agency. I'm sure wherever you're located, they have their own website and are doing very similar programs. However, the New York Special Olympics YouTube page can be accessed and used by anyone around the world. So Special Olympics New York, they currently have an at-home competition model. So if you are a registered athlete or your child or student is a registered athlete, they can currently participate in an at-home competition of skills where they're actually competing across the state with other individuals. And then they host a virtual celebration party, which we're just starting now with a couple of our folks here, and is a great way for some of our individuals who like to, whether you're at home, whether they're younger or older, a way to still compete and be a part of a team. I know without the sports, some children and adults are really missing that. If you go to their YouTube channel, you will see, I'm just pulling this up for you. They have so much content here that's easily shareable. They have exercises. They have live streaming every week of live exercise videos. Basically, what that means is that you can watch it happening live. You don't have to get on where they see you. It's just something that your folks could participate in at home or in their residence with their friends. Great ways to stay fit, learn new skills, learn about powerlifting, swimming. If you notice here, I'm hovering over the swimming video. They're not swimming. They're just learning skills, different exercise skills that help you once you can get back into the pool. They have nutrition, nutritious meal videos. And then I really like here, I just want to point this out. They have a young athletes at home page, and this has dozens of great videos for our younger folks. This is specifically made for the IDD population, anyone, and I'm certain that there's something here for everybody. So there's foundational skills, things where you this is more geared towards children. Obviously, this is why it's the young athletes at home, but there's different exercise videos, music, getting music and movement, getting people to just get up and get active. These are great to put on, and you'll see they're also, a lot of them are very short, anywhere from 2 minutes to 7 minutes. They're very realistic. So they're great to put on if you need a little wiggle break. Another website that I tend to use a lot and I think is really great. This is a New York City company called Daniel's Music Foundation. They have, in this new world of ours, started sharing totally free virtual content. So you can go to their website and find everything. One of the things I really like is they have this DMF on demand, which I'm going to bring you to next. And DMF on demand has, again, totally free content for you that's made for our community of family and friends. This is fun, educational, interactive videos. They have music and movement videos, instructional videos. You'll see they have specials up for Halloween. These are all certified music therapists and different specialists that are doing these. So they're really quality videos. They have different, depending on who you're working with, they have these talk sessions that are really interesting as well. Keynotes, they have short videos. You'll see they're all like between 2 and 3 minutes of other people with a variety of disabilities and the things they've accomplished in their lives, which I think is also really great. And then I just want to share with you their free live events. So this is some of that virtual content that's available out there. So for children, for example, on October 27th, between 7 and 8, they have a Halloween dance party for kids age 16 and up. It's free. It would operate similar to this. I don't know exactly if they use Zoom or not, but it's a great way to get your kids involved in a Halloween party. Music and movement for littler ones, 3 to 7, again, free. Dance along with David, ages 8 to 15. They also recently had a open mic night for adults. So if you have individuals who really like to sing and they don't get to get out there like they used to, or they have an instrument they like to play, they can for free sign up for the open mic night, which I believe they are having another one. Here was one of their older virtual open mic nights, and everyone can share together. And it's a great way to kind of open up a community of people and have your children or your young adults meet new people. All right, so I know you just heard from Patty, so I'm not going to get into it too much, but Volunteer New York has been a great asset to us. For one, it's great to just not have to go searching myself for some of those places. We want to do cards. Well, I can look right there and see what's the address, where's the people, who do I send it to do some nice volunteer activities. Along with that, Camp Volo over the summer, we were able to adapt that program for our houses to use, and it was a way that our folks could volunteer in a very reasonable way during this time and make an impact in their community. We will be shortly using one of their other programs that they have posted, which is called the Kindness Kit. So I encourage all of you to go look on Volunteer New York at the RISE program and some of their community sharing opportunities. And lastly, but not least, because there's so much out there, these are some of the videos that I've kind of vetted myself of different content, different exercise videos that are available that our folks can really get a lot out of. So there's Yoga Vista. This is a yoga site, but they do yoga to everything. So there's polka dance exercise, kids dance exercise, seniors, chair dance, chair yoga, you name it, they have it. Powered to Move is another dance exercise video specifically for special needs. I'm going to go to that website.
Powered to Move is all about building community. It's about pushing the limits for people with disabilities.
So these videos are all easy workout videos. So for anyone, depending on their physical ability, there's something for everybody. You see they have a Superman, superhero workout, Star Wars workout. And what I like about this is these are very plain, right? There's not a lot that's happening behind the person. So there's less to distract from, and all their videos are this way. It's just the teacher. There's not a whole lot of other people dancing around behind them, and it's a plain white space behind them. So they're less distracting sensory wise. And along with that, I've shared with you Fun and Dance Zumba classes by Susan Wilbur. She's great. She works with our folks live and in person, not currently, but she's shared some of her videos. She also will come to your houses and do outside exercise classes while the weather is still good. Laughter yoga, yes, I said it. It means exactly what it says. Laughter yoga. So get ready to sit and spend 10 minutes laughing. It sounds silly, but to be honest with you, it's so therapeutic to laugh, especially now in this time where we're all so stressed and anxious. Laughter yoga can bring a little bit of smiles and laughter to everybody. I certainly hope you can check that out. Let me just get back to my screen. All right, so we don't know how to access the virtual content that exists. So this seems to be something that we really struggled with initially, especially in our group homes. How do we access the virtual content? So not everybody has smart TVs. And for those of you who are listening for your young adults or your children at home, they may have a phone or a tablet, but it's not always so easy to do, say, an exercise video watching this tiny small screen. It would be nice to be able to share that on the living room TV, right? So any of the shared content that I have told you about today can certainly be accessed on one's tablet or smartphone. But if you're looking to participate in your group home or as a family, let's figure out how we can put that up on our living room TV. So if you have a smart TV, that's very simple. Your smart TV can usually have apps like YouTube, and you can get instant access to all the videos. Where we run into some trouble is for those people who still haven't upgraded to smart TVs. Great news, you can get a Fire Stick, very affordable, and you will be able to make your not smart TV smarter. So with this, you can put YouTube on there and at least gain access to a lot of the YouTube content that's available for your loved ones. Now for the Zoom, like say you want to do open mic night and you say, well, now I have YouTube, but I can't do Zoom and my Amazon Fire Stick won't download it or it's not working right. I suggest what I've started doing is screen mirroring. So if they have a smart device or they have a phone, as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network, you can screen mirror. I know on iPhones, it's like a swipe down from the right and there's a little option that says screen mirror. And then anything you see on your phone is now on your TV screen. I've been talking with my kids, talk to my dad in Florida that way, and cousins play together on TV that way. So it's a great way to take what you have and get the most out of it. So you can screen mirror and then sit in your living room and participate in those open mic nights or the virtual dances. And so there's always a way if you're willing to try out a few different things. So I hope that you have enjoyed hearing about some of the resources that I've been able to find and utilize during the last several months. And I'm happy to answer any questions or emails that come my way. And good luck to everybody. Hope you keep your guys busy and happy.
Terrific. I think that there's a lot of these presentations today, there's some hidden jewels out there, Kristen. I think that you've just exposed a lot of them to some of the audience, which is terrific. We have several questions and they tend to go around the same thing. So I'm going to ask a more general question and let you go where you want with it. The idea that there were people before COVID that had access to this, don't have access to it now, people who are less able or more able. So you've given a really, really broad thing. How do they zone in on what they're capable of, uncovering that's going to fit their child, their student, their whoever. Very broad stuff.
Right. Well, so I always start with whether you're an educator or a parent, right? We always start with the individual's interests. So if you're working with someone or you have someone at home who's not going to participate in Zumba, that's not going to be on your list of things to look for. So you want to start with the person's interests first and see what resources you could find that are based around their interests. And as they start doing more of these virtual activities, you might see that their interest starts to reach out past what they had before, now that they understand how they can communicate with others virtually.
Terrific. Is there and are there other environments where people, someone asked a question about whether there are people that come to your house to do sort of mini camps in a backyard that's been out there, I think. Do you know anything about those kinds of services?
So a lot of the subcontractors, we call them, so say like, any of the senior homes or day habs that have people who come in to do fitness classes, or do music sing-alongs. A lot of those individuals have to get creative with how they keep their businesses thriving as well. And so there are people who are doing sing-alongs, like outdoor sing-alongs, and you could have them come to your house. Of course, those things come at a price, but I think everybody's being somewhat reasonable during these times, and it's definitely something to look into. If you have a little pod of people who would like to be able to do something like that, now I'm certainly happy to help hook people up with those resources if I have any information.
Terrific. And I'll mention this again. We are recording this. We are going to publish it. We are going to provide the links. Like Krista has all the links that everyone wants, so they're going to be posted. They may not be accessible through her PowerPoint, but we'll post the links on a section on the Rockland Autism .com page. And there'll be contact information for every presenter today. So if you do want to see if Krista can help you out, help direct you, she's offered this to us before today and now today to say that she's willing to help. So that's fabulous stuff. So Krista, thank you so much for today. Have a great one, and appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. You too.
So there's a lot of great stuff in there. As we saw, we had gone through her presentation a couple of times, and as we did it, we just kept saying, wow, 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 especially the Special Olympics stuff. I'd like you now to bring you to our last presenter of the day. As you've noticed, we've tried to capture as many different angles as we can for the world as it's being reflected in the COVID mirror. And now we come to a school education angle. Our speaker is Donna Volpe. Donna began her career in special ed in 2005 as a speech pathologist for the Ramsey School District and is now the director of special education for the district. She spent time working with families from birth to adulthood in their homes, schools, and public spaces. Her focus is with clients on self-adequacy, independence, and augmentative communication in the community. She earned her BA in linguistics and her MA in communication sciences and disorders, both at Montclair State University, and her MA in educational leadership at William Patterson University. She's currently a doctoral student in the teacher education development at Montclair State, focusing on disability studies. Donna is also an adjunct professor for the Master in Special Education program at Ramapo College. And if that wasn't enough, Donna is also, outside of work, loves to collaborate with families and runs a successful private practice. And just because we're on it, in her spare time, she loves to read, run, spend time with her husband, and volunteer as a Special Olympics coach for New Jersey. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Donna Volpe. Hi, Donna.
Hi, how are you?
Great. That's such a long resume. I don't believe you do all that stuff, but impressive.
I do. I'm tired.
Anyway, this is all yours, and we'll be back at the end to wrap up, and have a great one.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I've really learned a lot today, and I hope that the presentation I'm about to give is going to kind of wrap everything up, because a lot of the ideas that have been discussed are going to be discussed in the presentation that I put together. You know, looking at this through the lens of a school district administrator, someone who is working with other districts and families and students and teachers on collaborating and trying to mitigate these difficult times. I'm honored to be part of the Rockland County Autism Symposium. One of the things I love to do is share strategies and resources with families and stakeholders. And while I never thought I'd be presenting to families on special education topics around a pandemic, here we are killing it. And I think we have learned quite a bit and have a lot to share. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. And most of the information that I'm sharing with you today is also going to be available on a website I put together so that the families will have access to the things we talked about, at least in my presentation. And then I'm happy to add any other information that you're interested in having on the website. The website is yours to share, make a copy, use however you see fit. So In response to the many challenges brought by the pandemic, the Ramsey School District has responded well with the use of a critical framework around problem solving, reflection, and flexibility. That said, this framework has allowed us to pivot, plan, and shift, and has resulted in some new amazing approaches and programs for our students and their families. Virtual learning has also resulted in a melding or bringing together of home and school like never before. And that said, we've noticed some common tenets and big ideas that have helped us better understand and support families with unique needs at this time. Through dialogue and collaboration, these are the topics that we found were a thread throughout the conversations we've been having with our family, and I'm here to share them with you today. They are structure, choice and control, visual schedules, coping strategies and social stories, ADLs, and life skills. And like I said, a lot of these have been covered, which makes me realize that what we've noticed is probably on the right track. So in a time of uncertainty and unpredictability, structure and knowing what is coming has provided comfort not only to our students, but also to our teachers, our parents, and other community members. Why is structure important? Well, structure helps create a sense of security for children. It provides predictability. And even though it may be hard initially to implement structured times for activities, we notice that people will adapt to the changes when you're consistent. Structure will help you and your child organize his or her day, and schedules and routines will make your child feel more in control. When people don't know how their day is going to unfold, they don't have control, and therefore they crave it and try to regain control in other ways. Loss of control resulting from the pandemic may look like non-compliance, it may look like meltdowns, but it can be mitigated by reissuing control minimally in the form of choices. We've noticed with our learners that giving them even a little bit of control, a little bit of choice has really increased their compliance. So providing choices like, what would you like to wear this day? These or these. You can clean up your toys before lunch or after lunch. It may not seem like a lot, but it really does allow people, not just children, but people, to feel like they have control over something when there really isn't much control in this world. So look for opportunities to offer choice in your daily schedules, during activities, food choices, when to do things, when to go grocery shopping. When you create a schedule, make sure it's fluid so that there may be control over, when you're going to the store. And that way, when there are concerns like wearing a mask where you don't have a choice, you won't get as much resistance. Visual schedules. Nearly everyone uses some form of a visual schedule to stay organized. For example, I use a Google Calendar, and some people use a planner. But that said, most individuals, whether they have special needs or not, benefit from the use of visual schedules in one form or another. There is a hierarchy to visual schedules. A website that really kind of breaks that down for you is embedded in the website I'll be sharing with you at the end of the presentation. Sometimes students benefit from written forms. Sometimes they benefit from picture forms. Often it's really nice to include personalized pictures into a schedule. And again, if you are looking to give the students some control, you may want to put these on a Velcro so you can move them around. Often we have difficulty processing too much information when it's delivered verbally. The use of a schedule has been known to increase a person's ability to initiate activities, to stay focused, to complete multi-steps within a task, and also to shift focus between one activity and another. Visual schedules can increase independence and reduce anxiety for many individuals with special needs because it allows predictability to re-enter in an unpredictable time. One of our earlier speakers today was talking about different ways to increase independence with a student, removing a one-to-one aid. And one of the ways we do this is by using visual schedules and prompting the student to be independent or increase independence with the use of a schedule like this. Now, initially, the student or the adult may need some help with the schedule and going through it, but little by little, the hope is that they'll be able to follow their routine more easily with the use of a schedule. In Ramsey, we have hired a community helper who is an individual with a disability, and we were able to set him up to work first with a visual schedule, so everything was sequenced for him visually. And with the help of a job coach, little by little, we've been able to increase his independence in completing tasks. One of the areas where he had a hard time was initiating, and without a verbal prompt, we now use a picture schedule to help him initiate. So the job coach will show him what the next step is, and he'll be able to do that more independently. So these are all different ways to increase student success and increase independence and increase focus. One of the things our parents has shared with us is sometimes students have a hard time focusing or attending during remote learning. And one of the things we've been able to do is increase the time that student is able to attend by putting in a visual prompt and then slowly increasing the amount of time that student is present. So in other words, like one of our speakers said earlier today, this isn't going to change overnight. Putting a picture out for a student in front of their computer doesn't mean they're suddenly going to sit. But the goal then would be, the student will sit for 1 minute, the student will sit for 2 minutes, the student will sit for 10 minutes, until you get to a place where the student can sit for a longer amount of time. One of the other things you can do for students is give them picture cues. So picture cues may be helpful in visually setting parameters or in communicating limits that are part of an activity that may seem unclear to your child. Some examples of situations where this might be useful is placing a break card by a child's workstation so they know they can ask for a break when needed. That way you don't have to wait until the child is frustrated to the point where they can no longer attend, and then they leave and are disengaged for the remainder of the day. Being able to ask for a break is something that all of us need in our lives. Sometimes setting alarms on our phones to remind us that we need a break, to get up and stretch. That's the bell. I'm at school now. That is not my break bell though, so I still have a little more to cover for you. So one of the other things we've noticed with our learners at home is being able to express how they're feeling or how their emotions are making them feel. And some of this is coping strategies or ways to cope at home. So you can see we have some picture symbols or picture cues of how a student feels or may feel, and then things they can do to work through it. You know, again, it's very difficult to process information without a visual for students who either are struggling in a new situation or they have special needs. And one of the things that we've noticed with our students is starting with a picture cue helps them understand A, what they're feeling, B, what their choices are, and C, how that can make them feel if they use one of their coping strategies. Now, the hope is always that the student will be able to generalize this without the need for picture cues, but in the meantime, it has been a great help, not only for the student, but also for the parents working with the students, because if they're using the same materials the schools are using, then the generalization should be easier. And of course, we have been collaborating with our families from the minute we went on school on a remote learning. Another thing a visual can be used for is to communicate physical boundaries of an area or an activity. For example, using a stop sign to mark where in the backyard the student needs to stop, or to show how much of an item or an activity is available before it's gone. For example, if it's not time for the student to use an iPad or computer, you could put not available picture on the computer in order to reduce the amount of time students are spending on the computer. One of the things our parents have been talking about with our students being home is the urge to eat. COVID-19 has probably resulted in 19 extra pounds for me. I'm working on it, but a lot of our students with special needs don't understand their limits, and that's something that's a little bit easier to control when they're at school than when they're at home. One thing we've noticed that has been helpful is placing pictures of the snacks that students allowed to have during the day. So for example, you may place 3 juice box pictures on the refrigerator, and the student knows each time they take a juice box picture off, it means that that's how many juice boxes are left for the day. And that has really helped us assist families in reducing the amount of food intake and drinking intake our students have been doing at home. And it's also allowed us to help parents increase wait time and giving delayed gratification. So putting a wait card on something and maybe pairing it with a timer has been of great success for us. And again, these are many supports that we've come up with the use of our behaviorists. So coping strategies and social stories. One thing that really hasn't been talked about much today, which I'd like to really emphasize, is the need for coping strategies and the use of social stories. So we always encourage families to reach out to our teachers and related service providers and other district staff members to share the successes they're having at home, and also to ask us what has been successful with their students. So by doing this, we can share the strategies that work best with students and provide consistency and continuity for all. There have been many examples of coping strategies shared by the other presenters today. I always say use a few, see which one works best for your child, and then try to put some kind of a visual up so the child or the adult can see that cue and know what they can do. I cannot emphasize enough for you that sometimes we have to really go through a few different types of cues, picture cues, to see which one works best with our students. But in the end, it really is a benefit. And I cannot emphasize the importance of and benefits of social stories. Social stories are things that I've been incorporating into my practice and into our district since I started. I love social stories. A social story is a narrative that's made to illustrate certain situations and problems and how people deal with them. They help children with autism or any disability understand social norms and to learn how to communicate with others appropriately. One of the presenters today brought up the fact that schools are on rolling closures at this point. And, while predictability is so important, there are times where we don't know what the next day is going to bring. And although we know it's a possibility, one of the things we can do to prepare our learners is to read social stories with them so they know what to do if a closure occurs. And so on the website I'll be sharing with you, there are some examples of social stories that have been created by others and shared that have to do with the coronavirus. So for example, one is about not being able to go to the store anymore or going out to eat. One has to do with wearing a mask. Those have been amazing for us, especially during our summer program when we had our youngest learners coming in. It was really hard at first for them to understand that wearing masks was something we had to do for the good of all. But using the social stories that were sent home ahead of time, most of our learners came in wearing their masks and keeping them on. So we have really had great success. One of the most important things about social stories is they can be individualized or generalized, but they really should have one objective. Templates can be found, and the website for creating social stories, including what to include and what not to include, will be available on the website. And remember, social stories should be introduced when your student or your learner is calm and quiet, and not when the student is experiencing difficulties. The purpose of the social story is to introduce a coping strategy or a resolution, but never in a moment when the student is having a difficult time. It is referred to then in the moment when the difficulty is occurring, and it is effective. We found it to be effective both in the school, in the home, and in the community. One of the biggest pieces of advice is to be proactive and not reactive. There may be rolling closures, preparing your child with a social story so they're prepared, how to deal with frustration when unexpected things occur is really, really important. Try your best to teach these skills, the coping skills, the flexibility, the waiting that your child needs to do, and work on times where this during times when your child is quiet, calm, and can really participate in the reading of the story. Introduce a visual cue or social story and practice, practice, practice. I think one of the earlier questions today was how to get an individual with a disability to take a COVID test. Introducing a social story would be a nice way to premise, practicing with a Q-tip, baby steps. A lot of these things will take time, but the time is well worth it. And we've seen really strong results for our learners, and the structure and the predictability has really increased their ability to participate. One of the other areas that many of our presenters have talked about, one of our areas that's very important is ADL's life skills and vocational skills. One of the things our fearless leader, Dr. Matthew Murphy, says, the mission and vision of the Ramsey School District is not canceled. So we forge ahead. We had to find different ways to address the skills of our learners. So one of our teachers, Margarita Diakos, who leads our STEP program, has put together what our life skills and vocational skills have looked like during the hybrid portion of our teaching. So we are still going to continue building our students' life and vocational skills. And while community-based instruction has been put on hold or on pause, or is limited due to COVID, we still had to come up with different strategies and different ways to address these skills. So again, it's critical to be flexible and creative. We have really focused on interview skills, creating visual resumes, using person-centered brochures, job etiquette skills, hands-on or digital activities of daily living, which have been really fun. I've experienced some of them and I'll be sharing some with you. job sampling within the school community. Our learners at times will travel to the elementary school and work in the media center or in our gardens, you know, at some of the different schools. And we've been able to recreate some jobs virtually. So out of the box tasks to build vocational skills are shared. We can help prepare classroom resources by organizing, you know, looking at different magazines and books, folding and mailing letters to parents, you know, and these tasks will include building skills that are printing, copying, sorting, alphabetizing, laminating, etc. So we have been able to continue our mission on building these vocational skills for our learners. And here are some examples of our STEP students sorting classroom magazines, labeling, laminating, cutting, and organizing, working in the main office, in the media center, at the tech department, helping the custodial staff, and in dining services. We are very, very proud. Without skipping a beat, we've been able to continue our work on vocational skills and job sampling. These are interesting sample tasks as well. So we had talked about the virtual resources that became available starting in March when the world shut down. And it has been absolutely amazing to see what had already existed that we weren't really aware of, that we have become aware of. There are resources from something called Boom. It's a resource that allows the learner who's working virtually with a teacher to participate. And so we are able to drag and drop simultaneously. And this one is vocational skills in fast food orders. We have donut shop, which is really fun. Oop. I like this one a lot. So they're able to take donuts and follow directions. Sometimes we'll have one of the students prompt the other student to follow the directions. Clothing stores. And then we've had sample virtual jobs in different sites, and these will all be available again on the website. So this is a link to our website. I don't know if I have time to show it a little bit, but I'll start. And it was created for this symposium. It really goes over the information that we talked about. The slide deck that I just presented to you is embedded inside the website. And then there's information on virtual life skills that I shared with you, as well as virtual life skills, executive functioning skills, tips for managing students at home. And I added Special Olympics because I do coach, and we have been working very hard as coaches to create virtual platforms for our athletes to continue their exercise regime. There are websites here that will help you access templates and also pre-made social stories. There's information from the CDC for students with autism and adults with autism. and different risks, different ways to protect your loved ones and others. And then some resources for New York. And this is for mental health and wellness in case of crisis, etc. And then I shared one that we created, our child study team put together that has New Jersey resources too, just in case. And as I said before, you can open this and simply make a copy and use it as your own for your staff, your group home, whatever it is you need. I think in this time, we found that working together as a community has been the best way to support one another. And, you know, closures due to COVID-19 have certainly brought about many challenges, but, you know, we have to look at it. There are many opportunities that came along with the closures as well. We have new time to spend with families, time to share information and stay connected in new and innovative ways. And today's webinar is just one example of that. And so using our newly identified big ideas and skills, this framework will be shared with you. And I hope that you and your family stay healthy and well. And I'm happy to continue updating the website as we go along. And it has been a pleasure to present to you today. I can't hear you.
My bad. I hit it twice. A lot of the questions that we got were about the website. And see, I'm a New Yorker, so I talk faster, so you can't even read my lips. I get it. So that website information will be posted on the Rockland County Autism Symposium site. Okay, that's going to be there. You'll get all this information. You'll get it for all the presenters today. You'll be able to see the website. You'll get to be able to have the contact information for Donna, and you can reach out directly with questions if that's what you'd like to do. Again, website. I'm seeing every one of them is website. I do want to thank you again, but I'm curious. This seems novel to me, but is it novel for, I know that you're based in Ramsey, New Jersey, and a lot of our audience, not explicitly, but a lot of it is New York based or Rockland based. Is this being done in other places where they've got a really one-stop shop for those kinds of resources? Because it seems like a great idea.
I believe so. I hope so. If not, I hope that we're starting a revolution today. You know, I have seen other districts do this. It's just the way we work in Ramsey. We are sometimes a little bit ahead of the curve, but I have seen it elsewhere. If not, I encourage you to bring this to your districts because it really should be a one-stop shop. I really don't want to see people redoing things that have already been done. So there's no need for the people here today to have to Google what I Googled. If I could just quickly throw it up onto a website and share it.
And that's a great community response. And frankly, that's what Krista, that's what everyone today did something of, to say, well, we did the work, so let's share the work, which is what we intended to do. So thank you very much. And we'll make sure we post your stuff, and we'll have a good day. Anyway, those of you that are left, thank you very much. That's the end of the program. We will be posting all this information. If you have questions, you can contact us at RAS at venturefoundation.org. And with any questions you have or comments, we're open to learn and get better. But we thank all the presenters today, and we'll put up our role. So if there's anything that you wanted to read about on our role, that you'll be able to see it as we go forward. So thank you all.